Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The sound of Rachel rifling through her makeup bag should have been innocent enough. Hell, after 18 years of marriage, I'd heard that particular symphony of clinking compacts and rattling lipstick tubes 1,000 times before. But tonight, something was different. Tonight, my wife was humming. Rachel never hummed when she got ready for girls' night. I pretended to read my paperback thriller, one eye on the page, the other tracking her movements in our bedroom mirror. She'd already changed clothes 3 times, settling on a black dress that hugged curves I hadn't been invited to appreciate in months. The kind of dress that screamed, "Look but don't touch," to everyone, except the person it was actually meant for. "Eric, have you seen my small purse?" "The black one," Rachel called from the bathroom, her voice carrying that artificial sweetness she used when she wanted something. "Check the hall closet," I replied, not looking up from my book. But I was watching, always watching now. She emerged a moment later, purse in hand, and that's when I saw it. The telltale corner of a box, peeking out from her bag as she stuffed in her phone charger. Not just any box, the distinctive packaging of Trojan Magnums, the extra-large size. Now, I'm not what you'd call insecure about my manhood, but I'm also not delusional. After 18 years, Rachel knew exactly what size we needed in our bedroom. And it sure as hell wasn't Magnum. Unless, of course, she wasn't shopping for our bedroom anymore. Rachel's phone buzzed. She grabbed it quickly, turning away from me as she answered. "Hey, Jenny, almost ready," she said, her voice dropping to that conspiratorial whisper women use when they're about to share something juicy. I know, I'm so nervous. What if he's not, as advertised?" A pause, then Rachel's laugh, the genuine one I hadn't heard directed at anything I'd said in years. "Oh God, Jenny, stop. Size isn't everything, but after what I've been dealing with at home," another pause. "Let's just say I'm ready for an upgrade in every department." My grip tightened on the paperback. The spine cracked. Okay, I'll text you when I get to the hotel. And Jenny, thanks for covering for me. Eric still thinks we're having our book club meeting at your place. Book club. Right. The only thing Rachel had been reading lately was text messages she thought I couldn't see. She hung up and continued her preparations, completely oblivious to the fact that her husband was sitting 10 feet away, having just heard his sexual adequacy discussed like a disappointing restaurant review. "All right, honey, I'm heading out," Rachel said, leaning down to give me a perfunctory kiss on the forehead. Her perfume was different, too. Something expensive and seductive, not the vanilla scent she usually wore. "Don't wait up. You know how these book discussions can run late." "What are you reading this month?" I asked casually. She froze for just a second. "Oh, it's that new romance novel everyone's talking about. 50 Shades something. Very educational." "I bet it is." After Rachel left, I sat in the silence of our bedroom, staring at the depression her body had left in the mattress. 18 years of marriage, and it had come to this. My wife was cheating on me with someone she'd never even slept with before, someone she was hoping would be an upgrade from her husband. The rage that filled me wasn't the hot, explosive kind you see in movies. It was cold, calculating, the kind of anger that doesn't make you punch walls. It makes you plan. I walked to Rachel's dresser and opened her jewelry box. Hidden behind her grandmother's pearls was a spare key to her car. Rachel thought she was clever, but she'd always been predictable. I'd watched her hide things in the same spots for years. Her Lexus was parked in the driveway, and it took me less than 30 seconds to pop the glove compartment. Inside, along with the registration and insurance papers, was a second phone, a burner phone that I'd never seen before. The screen lit up when I touched it, and there they were. Dozens of text messages between my wife and someone named D in her contacts. The most recent thread made my stomach churn. D. Can't wait to see you tonight. Room 237, Birchfield Inn. Rachel. Almost there. I brought protection. D. Good girl. Hope you're ready for the real thing. Rachel. God, yes. I'm so tired of settling for less. I scrolled up through weeks of messages. Photos I won't describe. Plans I couldn't have imagined. And through it all, casual references to Eric that made it clear I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being mocked. But as I read through their correspondence, a plan began to form. Rachel thought she was so smart, so careful. She had no idea that her husband had been paying attention, learning her patterns, understanding her weaknesses. I pocketed the phone and locked her car. Then I went back inside and made a phone call. Marty's auto shop, this is Marty. Hey, it's Eric. You still owe me that favor from when I helped you with your divorce papers? Course, man. What do you need? Meet me at the shop in an hour and bring your lockpicks. Marty Kowalski had been my employee for 3 years and my friend for longer than that. He was the kind of guy who'd help you move a body without asking questions. Though in this case, the only thing dying was my marriage. So let me get this straight, Marty said as we sat in my auto shop at 11 p.m., surrounded by the familiar smells of motor oil and tire rubber. Your wife is cheating on you with some guy named D, and instead of confronting her, you want to... What exactly? I showed him the burner phone. I want to make sure she gets exactly what she deserves. But first, I need to know who this bastard is. Marty scrolled through the messages, his weathered face growing darker with each screen. Jesus, Eric, this is brutal. She's really laying into you in these texts. Read me the worst one. You sure you want to hear this? Read it. Marty cleared his throat. She says, and I quote, Eric couldn't satisfy a woman if he came with an instruction manual. I've been faking it for so long, I deserve an Oscar. Can't wait to remember what good sex feels like. The words hit like physical blows, but I kept my expression neutral. What else? There's a bunch of stuff about your performance issues. And apparently you snore. And she thinks you're getting fat. Marty looked up from the phone. For what it's worth, man, you're not fat. And everyone snores sometimes. Thanks for the pep talk. What about him? What do we know about D? Marty kept scrolling. Derek Finch, pharmaceutical sales rep, drives a red Corvette, lives in those new luxury apartments downtown, and according to these messages, he's been screwing around with married women for years. Your wife isn't his first. Or his last, probably. Definitely not. There are references to other women. Looks like this guy makes a hobby out of breaking up marriages. I leaned back in my desk chair, processing this information. Derek Finch? I'd heard that name before, probably around town. Birchfield wasn't big enough for someone to drive a red Corvette without being noticed. So, what's the plan? Marty asked. First, we're going to pay Mr. Finch a visit. Not to confront him, just to get a better sense of what we're dealing with. Then, we're going to make sure both of them understand that actions have consequences. I like the sound of that. But Eric, we're not talking about anything illegal here, right? I mean, I'm all for revenge, but I'm not going back to prison. Nothing illegal, just creative justice. We drove to Derek's apartment complex in my pickup truck, keeping the lights off as we cruised through the parking lot. The red Corvette was easy to spot, parked in a space marked reserved for D. Finch, because of course this asshole had his own designated parking spot. Nice car, Marty observed, probably compensating for something. Let's find out. The apartment complex was one of those modern places with more amenities than most people's houses. Pool, gym, concierge service. The kind of place where a pharmaceutical sales rep could afford to live if he was good at his job, or if he was supplementing his income in other ways. Derek's apartment was on the 3rd floor, corner unit with a balcony overlooking the pool. The lights were off, which made sense since he was currently at the Birchfield Inn with my wife. Security cameras, Marty pointed out. I see them, but they're focused on the entrances and the pool area. The parking garage has some blind spots. We spent 20 minutes casing the place, learning the layout, identifying weaknesses. I wasn't sure yet what I was going to do with this information, but I believed in being prepared. On the drive back to the shop, Marty asked the question I'd been dreading. What about Rachel? I mean, Derek's a piece of shit, but she's your wife. She made vows. What are you going to do? About her. I stared out at the empty streets of Birchfield. Most of the town was asleep, living their normal lives, dealing with normal problems. Rachel thinks I'm stupid. She thinks I don't notice things, don't pay attention. She's been treating me like a fool for months, maybe years. That doesn't answer my question. She's going to learn that underestimating me was the biggest mistake of her life. When I got home, Rachel's car was in the driveway. I could see light under our bedroom door, and I could hear her on the phone, probably giving Jenny a play-by-play of her evening. I sat in my truck for a few minutes, gathering my thoughts. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tonight was the last night Rachel would have the upper hand in our marriage. I slipped quietly into the house and made my way to the kitchen. Rachel's purse was on the counter where she always left it. Inside, along with her wallet and keys, was the empty box of condoms. But I had a surprise for her. Earlier, while Marty and I were planning our reconnaissance mission, I'd made a stop at a novelty shop downtown, the kind of place that sold gag gifts and bachelor party supplies. I'd purchased a box of trick condoms, ones that would break at the worst possible moment. I swapped out the remaining condoms in Rachel's purse with my special purchases, then added a little note. Hope you got what you were looking for. Sweet dreams. E. Let Derek Finch try to be an upgrade now. The next morning, Rachel came downstairs, looking like she'd been hit by a truck. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup smeared, and she was clutching her phone like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Rough book club meeting? I asked innocently, not looking up from my coffee and newspaper. Rachel shot me a look that could have melted steel. Very funny, Eric. I'm not sure what you mean. You know exactly what I mean. She slammed her purse down on the kitchen counter. What did you do? I made coffee, want some? Don't play dumb with me. I know you went through my purse. I folded my newspaper and looked at her directly for the first time since she'd walked into the kitchen. Rachel's face was flushed with anger and embarrassment, and there were what looked like carpet burns on her knees. I have no idea what you're talking about, I said calmly. But you look terrible. Maybe you should call in sick today. I can't call in sick. I have the Morrison presentation this afternoon. She poured herself a cup of coffee with shaking hands. Eric, I need to know, did you do something to my personal items? What kind of personal items? Rachel's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and her face went white. Problem? I asked. She didn't answer, just stared at her phone. I could see her typing furiously, then waiting, then typing again. Whatever conversation she was having, it wasn't going well. Finally, she looked up at me. We need to talk. About what? About last night, about things. What about last night? You were at book club with Jenny, right? Rachel's phone buzzed again. This time, she actually groaned when she read the message. Is everything okay? I asked with mock concern. You seem upset. Everything is not okay, she snapped, and you know it. I stood up and walked over to her, close enough that I could smell the unfamiliar cologne still clinging to her clothes. Rachel, I honestly don't know what's bothering you, but if you want to talk about our marriage, about problems we might be having, I'm all ears. For a moment, I thought she might actually confess. Her mouth opened, and I could see her struggling with whether to tell me the truth. Then her phone rang. I have to take this, she said, walking quickly toward the stairs. But she wasn't fast enough. I heard her answer. Jenny, this is a disaster. He knows. Somehow Eric knows, and he sabotaged everything. I smiled and went back to my newspaper. That afternoon, I decided to pay a visit to Rachel's office. Hartley and Associates was a small advertising agency downtown, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business. Perfect for what I had in mind. Rachel's assistant, a young woman named Beth, greeted me with surprise. Mr. Lawson, what brings you here? I wanted to surprise Rachel with lunch, I said, holding up a bag from her favorite restaurant. Is she in? She's in the conference room with the Morrison client. Big presentation today. But I think they're almost finished. Mind if I wait? Of course not. Can I get you some coffee? While Beth busied herself with coffee preparations, I casually glanced around Rachel's desk area. Her computer was logged in, her email open on the screen, and there, in her sent folder, were several messages that made my blood boil. Messages to Derek, sent from her work email, describing our marriage in terms that would have made a divorce lawyer salivate. Messages that detailed our financial situation, our assets, even speculation about how much she might get in a settlement. But the worst message was one she'd sent just that morning. Last night was a disaster, but it wasn't your fault. Eric is suspicious, but he's too stupid to actually do anything about it. We just need to be more careful until I can figure out how to get rid of him permanently. Get rid of me permanently. Here's your coffee, Mr. Lawson, Beth said, returning with a steaming mug. Thank you. Beth, can I ask you something? Has Rachel seemed different lately? Stressed, maybe? Beth glanced around nervously. Well, I probably shouldn't say anything, but she has been getting a lot of personal calls at work, and she's been leaving early a lot. She says it's for client meetings, but she trailed off. But what? But I handle her calendar, and there aren't any client meetings scheduled for those times. I see. Mr. Lawson, is everything okay? You and Mrs. Lawson aren't having problems, are you? Before I could answer, Rachel's voice echoed from the conference room. Thank you so much.
She just gave me a massage! That's it!
Remember, I won't be a fool! Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Mr. Morrison. We'll have the revised campaign ready by Friday. I heard footsteps approaching, and Rachel appeared in the doorway of the conference room, shaking hands with a distinguished-looking man in an expensive suit. Eric! Rachel's voice was sharp with surprise. What are you doing here? Brought you lunch, I said, standing up and holding out the bag. Thought you might be hungry after your long night. Mr. Morrison looked between us with interest. Your husband is very thoughtful, Rachel. Yes, Rachel said through gritted teeth. He's full of surprises. After Morrison left, Rachel pulled me into her office and closed the door. What the hell are you doing here? I told you I brought lunch. Don't give me that innocent act. You've been acting weird all morning, and now you show up at my office unannounced? I thought you'd be happy to see me. Eric, we need to establish some boundaries. You can't just show up at my workplace whenever you feel like it. Why not? Are you expecting someone else? Rachel's face flushed. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing at all. I just want to make sure I'm not interrupting anything important. My phone buzzed with a text message. I pulled it out and smiled when I read it. Good news, I told Rachel. Marty finished that special project I asked him to work on. What special project? You'll see soon enough. That evening, Derek Finch was in for a surprise when he got to his precious red Corvette. Marty had been busy while Derek was at work, and the pharmaceutical sales rep was about to learn that some modifications aren't covered under warranty. The sugar in the gas tank was just the beginning. Derek Finch discovered Marty's handiwork at approximately 6:30 that evening. I know this because I was parked across the street from his apartment complex, watching through binoculars as he tried unsuccessfully to start his Corvette. The sugar in the gas tank had done its job, but that was just the opening act. Marty had also loosened the lug nuts on Derek's front wheels. Not enough to cause an accident, but enough to create a distinctive wobbling sound that would make the car undrivable. And for the grand finale, he'd filled the air conditioning vents with a mixture of fish oil and shrimp paste. Even from across the street, I could see Derek's face turning red as he sat in his car, probably wondering why it smelled like a seafood restaurant dumpster. My phone rang. How's our boy doing? Marty asked. About as well as you'd expect. He's out of the car now, popping the hood. He's not going to find anything obvious. I made sure of that. Good. Phase 1 complete. Derek spent another 20 minutes trying to diagnose his car troubles before giving up and calling what I assumed was a tow truck. While he waited, he made several phone calls, his gestures becoming increasingly agitated. One of those calls was probably to Rachel. Sure enough, my wife's burner phone, which I'd been monitoring since the previous night, lit up with an incoming call from Derek. I answered it. Hello, Derek. Silence on the other end. I know you're there, Derek. Red Corvette, apartment 3C, pharmaceutical sales. We should talk. Who is this? I think you know who this is. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Derek hung up. 5 minutes later, Rachel's regular phone rang. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. Eric, it's me. I need to come home early tonight. Something's come up. We need to talk. But I wasn't ready to talk yet. I was just getting started. Over the next 3 days, Derek Finch's life became a series of increasingly frustrating inconveniences. His credit cards were mysteriously declined at restaurants. His dry cleaning was somehow mixed up with someone else's order, leaving him with a wardrobe 3 sizes too small. His apartment building's fire alarm kept going off in the middle of the night, always traced to a malfunction near his unit. None of it was illegal. All of it was untraceable. And Derek was starting to crack. Rachel, meanwhile, was growing more paranoid by the hour. She'd started checking her purse obsessively, looking over her shoulder when she thought I wasn't watching and jumping every time her phone rang. "Eric," she said on Thursday morning, "I think someone might be following me." "Really? That's concerning. Have you called the police?" I, No. I don't have any proof. It's just a feeling." "What kind of feeling?" "Like someone's watching me, waiting for something." I looked up from my breakfast. "Waiting for what?" "I don't know. That's what scares me." Rachel had no idea how right she was. That afternoon, I decided it was time to escalate things. I drove to Derek's office, a sleek medical building on the outskirts of town, where several pharmaceutical companies had regional offices. Derek worked for MedTech Solutions, according to the directory in the lobby. 3rd floor, Suite 3 and 12. I took the elevator up and walked casually past his office. Through the glass door, I could see Derek at his desk, talking animatedly on the phone. He looked haggard, like he hadn't been sleeping well. Good. I continued down the hallway to the reception area where a cheerful woman in her 50s greeted me. "Can I help you?" "I hope so. I'm looking for Derek Finch. I believe he's been working with my wife on some personal matters." The receptionist's smile faltered slightly. "Personal matters?" "Yes. My wife, Rachel Lawson. I think Derek has been providing her with some specialized services." "I'm not sure I understand." "Oh, I think you do." I leaned closer to the reception desk. "Derek has quite a reputation around town. I just wanted to make sure he understands that some services come with consequences." The receptionist was looking increasingly uncomfortable. "Sir, I think you might have the wrong person. Mr. Finch is a pharmaceutical sales representative. He doesn't provide personal services. Are you sure about that?" Before she could answer, Derek appeared in the hallway behind me. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice tight with tension. I turned around slowly. Derek Finch was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, artificially tanned, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. The kind of man who'd never been punched in the face, but probably should have been. "Derek!" "Finally, we meet in person." I extended my hand. "Eric Lawson, Rachel's husband." Derek didn't take my hand. "I think you should leave." "Oh, I'm not staying long. I just wanted to introduce myself. Make sure we understood each other. We have nothing to discuss." "I disagree. I think we have quite a lot to discuss. Starting with your recent car troubles." Derek's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. Red Corvette, mysterious mechanical problems, strange smells. Ring any bells?" The receptionist was watching our exchange with obvious alarm. I could see her reaching for the phone, probably to call security. "It's okay," I told her. "I was just leaving." "Derek, it's been a pleasure. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other soon." As I walked toward the elevator, I heard Derek following me. "Wait," he called out. I stopped and turned around. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. "I want you to stay away from my wife. And if I don't?" I smiled. "Then you'll find out that car trouble is the least of your problems." The elevator doors opened and I stepped inside. As they closed, I saw Derek standing in the hallway, his confident facade finally cracking. That evening, Rachel came home in tears. "Eric, something terrible's happening." "What's wrong?" "Someone's been calling my office, asking questions about me, personal questions, and Derek says someone's been harassing him too." "Derek!" Rachel realized her mistake immediately. "I mean, a friend from work mentioned." "What friend?" "It doesn't matter. The point is, someone is targeting people I know, and I think they might be targeting me too." I sat down next to her on the couch. "Rachel, is there something you want to tell me? Something that might explain why someone would be interested in your friends?" For a moment, I thought she might confess everything. Her mouth opened, and I could see the words forming. Then her phone rang, and the moment was lost. But I could wait. I'd been patient this long. By Friday morning, Derek Finch had reached his breaking point. I know this because he called Rachel's burner phone at 6 a.m., and I was listening. This has to stop, Derek said without preamble. Your husband is psychotic. Eric isn't psychotic, Rachel replied, though she didn't sound entirely convinced. He's just suspicious. Suspicious. Rachel, he showed up at my office. He's been sabotaging my car. Yesterday, I found a dead fish in my mailbox. I smiled, remembering Marty's latest contribution to Derek's misery. Look, Derek continued, I like you, but this isn't worth it. Your husband obviously knows something, and I'm not going to jail over some married woman. You're breaking up with me? I'm saving both our asses. You should tell your husband the truth before this gets any worse. I can't do that. He'll take everything in the divorce. Better than having him take everything while you're still married. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. Then, what if we could get rid of Eric permanently? My blood went cold. What do you mean, get rid of him? I mean, what if Eric had an accident? Something that looked natural, but Jesus Christ, Rachel. Are you talking about murder? I'm talking about solving our problem. Our problem. Lady, you're the one with the problem. I'm done with this crazy situation. Derek hung up. I sat in my truck outside our house, processing what I'd just heard. My wife, the woman I'd been married to for 18 years, had just suggested murdering me. Not in the heat of passion, not in a moment of anger, but as a calculated solution to an inconvenient problem. The cold rage I'd been nurturing for days suddenly turned white-hot. Rachel wanted to play hardball? Fine. Let's play hardball. I called Marty. Change of plans, I told him. We're moving to the nuclear option. What's the nuclear option? Public humiliation. Complete and total destruction of her reputation. I like the sound of that. What do you need? Remember that recording equipment we used when Mrs. Patterson thought her employees were stealing from the register? Yeah, the wireless microphones and digital recorder setup. Can you get it ready for tonight? Sure, what's the plan? Rachel thinks she's smarter than me. She thinks she can manipulate the situation, control the narrative. Tonight she's going to learn that she's been underestimating me from the beginning. That evening, I told Rachel I wanted to take her out to dinner. Somewhere nice, somewhere we could talk privately about our marriage. I think we need to clear the air, I said. I know things have been tense between us lately. Rachel looked suspicious. What kind of talk? The kind where we're honest with each other, about everything. She agreed, probably thinking this was her chance to manipulate me further, to convince me that my suspicions were unfounded. I made reservations at Romano's, the nicest restaurant in Birchfield. The kind of place where everyone in town went for anniversaries and special occasions. The kind of place where half the town would see us having dinner together. What Rachel didn't know was that Marty had spent the afternoon setting up our recording equipment throughout the restaurant. Wireless microphones hidden in the floral centerpieces, digital recorders placed strategically around our table. Everything Rachel said was going to be captured in crystal clear digital audio. We arrived at Romano's at 7 p.m. The restaurant was packed, just as I'd hoped. I recognized at least a dozen people from around town. Rachel's coworkers, neighbors, people from the country club. Perfect audience for what was about to happen. This is nice, Rachel said as we were seated at our table. Very romantic. I thought we deserved a special evening. We ordered wine and appetizers, making small talk, while I waited for the right moment. Rachel seemed relaxed, probably thinking she'd successfully deflected my suspicions. Finally, after our entrees arrived, I decided it was time. Rachel, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. Of course. Are you having an affair? Rachel's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Eric, why would you ask me something like that? Because I think you are. I think you've been lying to me for months. That's ridiculous. Is it? Because I found some things that suggest otherwise. I pulled out her burner phone and placed it on the table between us. Rachel's face went white. Where did you get that? From your car, along with the condoms you've been buying, the extra large ones. Several people at nearby tables were starting to notice our conversation. Rachel looked around nervously. Eric, please, not here. Why not here? Ashamed of something? We can discuss this at home. I don't think so. I think we should discuss it right now. Starting with Derek Finch. At the mention of Derek's name, Rachel actually flinched. I don't know anyone named Derek Finch. Really? Because according to the messages on this phone, You know him quite intimately. I started reading from the phone, my voice loud enough for surrounding tables to hear. Eric couldn't satisfy a woman if he came with an instruction manual. I've been faking it for so long, I deserve an Oscar. Rachel lunged across the table, trying to grab the phone. Stop it! Can't wait to remember what good sex feels like. I continued reading. Maybe we should make it a regular thing. My husband is so stupid, he'll never figure it out. By now, the entire restaurant was watching our table. Rachel was crying, but I wasn't finished. And here's my personal favorite, I said, scrolling to the morning's conversation. Yeah, what if we could get rid of Eric permanently? What if Eric had an accident? The words hung in the air, like a physical presence. I could hear shocked gasps from other diners, the scrape of chairs as people turned to get a better look. You were planning to kill me, Rachel, your own husband, because I was inconvenient. Rachel was sobbing now, her carefully applied makeup running down her cheeks. Eric, please, I didn't mean it. I was angry. I wasn't thinking clearly. You weren't thinking clearly when you suggested murdering me. When exactly do you think clearly, Rachel? I stood up, still holding the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced to the restaurant, I'd like you all to meet my wife, Rachel Lawson, cheating wife, would-be murderer, and according to her own words, a woman who's been faking orgasms for 18 years. The silence in Romano's was deafening. Rachel stumbled to her feet, her chair falling backward. You bastard, she whispered. You complete bastard. No, Rachel. I'm the husband you underestimated. She ran from the restaurant,